Hello, and welcome to another episode of Learn with Jason. Today on the show, we are going to dig into a subject that has been on my mind a lot lately. It feels like it's the only thing we talk about these days. It's, you got it, it's AI. And one of the things that I think has been really challenging about AI is that in addition to a whole bunch of other concerns that I'm not going to get into today, I've talked about them other places, other people have talked about them at length. I want to dig into one of the concerns I have that doesn't approach the ethics or the morality of AI, but instead approaches the user experience of it. Um, One of the things that's really challenging to me about AI is that it feels like it's been an enormous step backwards in terms of UX and usability because it's all text. It doesn't feel it doesn't feel like what the web can offer, right? So, um, in this episode, we're going to dig into maybe how we might go about solving that problem and how we can not give up all the good things about the web as we start to grapple with what's it going to be like in a world where AI is pretty commonplace in most of the things we use. And to do that, we are bringing on somebody who has been deep in this space, who's been exploring a lot of kind of how this works and where it can go and all those things. So let's dig right into this show and meet him. So welcome, Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. How are you doing?
I'm so happy you're here. I'm really excited to dig into this because I feel like this is a topic that has been just kind of on my mind because I think there are a lot of things that people can talk about when it comes to AI. It seems like the only topic of conversation we have across tech today is some facet of AI. But one of the things that I really haven't seen people talking about, and that has really started to bum me out, is the fact that we've like come so far with what we can do on the web in terms of visual experiences and interactivity and the ways that we can display and interact with information. And I just feel like the entire approach of AI is, yeah, forget all that. It's just text now. So I guess as somebody who's maybe been more plugged into this space than I am, my first question before we dig into any of that is, can you talk a little bit more about who you are, maybe introduce yourself and give us some context before I start peppering you with questions?
Yeah, for sure. My name is Mike Ryan. I am a Google developer expert. I'm mostly known in the Angular space. I've done a lot of open source over the past 10 years, one of the original co-creators of NGRX, which is kind of the de facto state management library for Angular. And about 4 years ago, I left my previous job behind, moved all the way across the country, and started my own consultancy with the hope of getting to write more Angular code professionally. And I never got to do that. Instead, I've been just heads down, kind of in the React space, really working on bringing like huge data sets to life on the browser. You've hit on that point already of like, we've really pushed the web over the past 10, 15, 20 years in terms of how rich the user interface we can create are. And I've been in that space just trying to figure out how to get like a bank's huge data set loading really fast and performantly in the browser and giving users good controls over that data set, let them visualize it, interact with it, that kind of thing.
Cool. Yeah. So this feels like maybe you've been thinking about this a little bit. Let's talk. Maybe the first question is, why do you think that we have like defaulted to text? Like, what is it about this new era that that has led to us just not even attempting to make it visual?
Yeah, I think the answer is partly maturity and maybe also just a little lack of imagination in some ways. I remember when ChatGPT came out in like December 2022, I was away on a trip with my now fiance at the time, and I was just blown away by it. And I went home that January and started building my first app with Jippity 3.5. And it
Jippity.
could only Jippity. Yeah, I call it Jippity. I know it's GPT, but I think Jippity's more fun. So I'm going to call it Jippity today. And I don't know. It blew my mind. It was amazing, but it could only do text. It couldn't, like, you could maybe get it to spit out a little bit of JSON, but it wasn't super great. And that was only what, 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. And so I think it's
Right.
just taken a lot of maturity in the tooling to get to a place where we can have these models output more than just text, to actually give us structured data or do multimodal outputs. And so I think the answer to your question is that we've gotten stuck with text because that's what it did really well out of the box. And we've kind of gotten stuck in that space. And now that the tooling has really matured behind the scenes, it's kind of time to start being more creative or more imaginative with what we can do with this technology.
Yeah. And I think that's maybe been my core contention is, it often feels like tech is very susceptible to like shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
We've seen this many, many times over where people scramble to do something a little bit worse just because it's newer. and that did lead me to being pretty slow to even consider AI because it kind of felt like maybe it was just going to be another crypto wave where we were shoving an idea that was interesting in one context and just seeing if we could, maybe if we burn enough money, we can find a way to make it interesting in other contexts. And as we've seen, that's not really how that panned out. AI though feels like it's a little different. I don't see the same sort of isolation and utter failure of AI to make its way out of its sort of core use cases. So it feels like in some capacity AI is here to stay. I know that I sincerely hope that it sort of finds its place and stops being the only thing anybody cares about because, it's really making a lot of this discourse just so tedious. But
It really is. Huge noise signal in this space right now.
absolutely, and it just feels like everybody is, we're seeing like conference keynotes where companies that have done really interesting things don't even talk about them because all they want to talk about is the AI stuff that nobody cares about in their suite. But the thing that I do think is going to be important is as this becomes permanent in some way, as we see that AI has made its way into our workflows in ways that we're probably not going to be able to escape, right? Like I don't think
Right.
there's any going back on things like chatbots or smarter search. We love, and that's really what it's good at. It go through this
Yeah.
data set and not just search for what I asked for, but for things that are like what I asked for, so that if I don't exactly know the name of something, I can still find it, right?
Right.
Or I can ask it a question and it can kind of like use the data that it has to give me a better answer than I would be able to get on my own, right? That's a really interesting use case. But what I don't like about it is that it has been kind of like the same help desk chatbot thing that all of us
Over and
know and
over.
love from the bottom right corner of every website ever, right? It's like,
Right.
hi, I'm your friendly robot. Can I pop over
Oh,
whatever it is
yeah.
you're trying to do and ask you questions? And that sort of feels like how AI is being implemented right now. It's that little like annoying pop-up robot and it's a chatbot. I
Yeah.
want to interact with it differently. I want to use the web like the web. And yeah, I feel like we've worked so hard to do that. So in my experience, like the part that is hard about this is that it is the LLMs themselves are a sort of text-based medium. You put text in, and then you can say, "Give me back JSON," and they're pretty good at that. They'll give you back JSON. They can give you back some code, but like, how do we, I don't know, convince it to use our code and not to hallucinate other code? And because one of the big things about the web is that what makes it feel good is like this level of polish, and we've got whole design system teams that are working on coherence and polish and usability and accessibility and all these things that are really important. I don't necessarily want the lowest common denominator React code on GitHub to be what my LLM spits out, because I think we know that's not very good accessible code, right?
Yeah.
We've all seen the charts on performance and average page size and everything. Like average code is not very good. So I
Right.
want to be able to use the code that we've specifically audited. And I don't know how to do that. Like that feels like the big gap that I don't know how to cross as somebody who's even beginning to explore this. And I know that you've been thinking in this space. So I guess the first thing would be maybe we can talk a little bit about why, and second, maybe talk about how you've approached trying to correct this.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, you're hitting on one of the things that I feel pretty passionate about, which is this idea of like quality. The
Hmm.
human authored React component that's done accessibility right, that's implemented design patterns correctly, that feels good and performs well, is way better than any React component I've ever gotten a model to generate. And like, I pay for the really good ones. I'm a consultant, so
Hmm.
it's worth me to pay for these really nice models, and they're just not very good at high quality yet. Maybe they'll
Right.
get there. That's a place where we'll go eventually. But for me, I want to really like break out of these chatbots. I kind of get a little cringe at the idea of like humanizing or personalizing these things and
Yes.
replacing human interaction with AI. That part gives me a little bit of an ick. But
Hmm.
when I'm using AI models in my dev flow, like there is a certain sense of magic that I feel when it predicts the next line of code correctly, or when it surfaces a good recommendation on a pull request review, or it finds me like the best new restaurant in a certain neighborhood. Like I feel the magic in those interactions. And I've been wondering, how do I take that sense of joy of AI, that, oh, it actually knew what I wanted to do and helped me get it done quicker. How do I package that up and go build products that feel that way?
Hmm.
I'm not interested in all the different ways that my developer workflow can improve. I want to pass that on to the users of my software and give them something that feels like magic, that's still using handcrafted React components and still feels like a really great web app.
Yeah. And so I mean, I 100% agree with you, but if I were to try to start that today, I don't even know where I would begin, right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not even sure I don't even know what step 0 is, because it feels very much like LLMs, question marks, it's underpants no mean, right? But in
Hmm.
my case, it's like, I know that people want to use LLMs. I know that I like an LLM powered search more than a plain text search. And
Yeah.
so, for example, on Code TV, I would love it if somebody was able to come in and, instead of just having to know, like, search for svelte, they could say,
Yeah.
what are the modern frameworks that people are learning right now? And it could pull up videos on svelte and preact and astro. And, it would just kind of know that stuff because contextually that's in the data set. But I don't
Yeah.
necessarily want that to be like a bulleted list, right? Like,
Right.
I don't want it to feed Markdown. I want people to be able to use, I've done all this work to make Code TV better. I would love
Yep.
it if it could just show an interface that was like, here are some videos you can watch, and it uses the interface that I spent all this time designing, right?
Yeah.
So what is step 0 here? Like, what do you do to cross this bridge?
Yeah. So I mean, you could go roll this yourself, and it would take you a good bit of effort. I've rolled it myself now many times over the past couple of years. But there's also, another alternative path. There's this growing concept of what I call generative user interfaces. It is that we're taking generative AI and not using it to generate text or code or data, but to actually have it assemble a user interface kind of on the fly in response to the user's input or intent or whatever context you want to use to generate that user interface. And I have no clue what this means, to be clear up front. Like, this idea is a lot bigger than I could possibly get my head around, but I know that it's exciting to me, or that the
Hmm.
possibility of letting an AI generate a user interface on the fly feels fun to at least explore. And so I've been working on an open source project called Hashbrown, and it
Okay.
lets you as a developer do what we're talking about. You can use a large language model, you can connect it to your React application, and you can have that large language model understand the React components that you have available and assemble user interfaces kind of on demand, it just dynamically inside of your React app.
And
Uh,
and so the major question that I have when we talk about this stuff is, I feel, and forgive me because I'm asking a lot of questions that are probably sounding cynical, and if that's how it's
well,
coming off, it's because maybe I am a little bit cynical
yeah,
about
I
this
think
stuff.
I think it's earned. Yeah, I think it's earned.
Because what I keep hearing from a lot of these sort of like magic companies is that they're like, oh yeah, all you have to do is show us your website and we'll generate you. And I'm like, it never works that way.
Yeah,
It's always fallen short and become a very manual effort to get it to look right. So, but I've seen what you've been working on with Hashbrown, and
mhm,
I feel like this is different. And I guess my question is why? Like, what are you doing differently that is
yeah,
allowing it to make? And obviously we're going to get in and actually look at this here in a minute, but but I'm just sort of structurally curious. How are you getting it to do this the way that I would want it to be done?
Yeah. So the first part of that is to just make it really explicit and clear. I think AI is only as good as the context you provide it. And so
Mm,
Hashbrown is all about having the developer create that context. And then the second part of it is, again, the developer has full control over the React components that are getting rendered here. This isn't a thing where it's actually like writing the CSS, the JSX, and all of that, trying to imitate or like look like your code. It actually is your React components, and you have full authoritative, control over those components and how they look and how they behave. We're just asking the LLM to pick which one to draw, right? It's kind of more like
mm,
closer to autocomplete than it is to like replacing a software engineer. And as awesome as AI is, I do think it's still mostly an autocomplete. And so we're
right.
leaning into that strength of what it actually can do today rather than trying to do this moonshot, like replace software engineers kind of thing that I think a lot of
And
companies
so
are approaching.
So if I can repeat that back, what you're saying is that instead of saying like my tool will magically consume your site, figure out what the components are, and then use those to generate UI, you're instead saying you need a developer to register the available components into this system, at which
Yep.
point only those registered components can be used to generate UI.
Yep. And we're going to have full control over the system instruction
Oh,
that does
okay.
that. We're going to have full control of that list of components that it's allowed to render. And, that to me is what I wanted to do with Hashbrown is like, make this a capability. Don't make this feel like magic. Make this feel like an understood, open source, transparent thing that a developer can actually get their hands around and
Okay.
have, some success with.
And so this then starts to approach, honestly, this is one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on the show, is because this is one of the first times that I've seen an approach that feels like what I would consider to be a mature approach to AI. It's not like if we get enough GPUs, you can let go of the wheel entirely and it's just going to work, right? Which
Not like
I
that.
think is that's a doomed approach. We're never going to get to the point where I can have a feeling and the computer's going to interpret that feeling and give me exactly what I want. You will always need to have your hands on the wheel. If you want something, you have to do the work to get the thing, right? And so
Right.
what I believe is interesting about what you're doing with Hashbrown is that you're approaching it the way that I would expect a software engineer to approach this problem, which is we know what we want to be available, right? Like
Yeah.
we designed all of the components, we've got a design system, we've got our colors, all the things that we want to be true. We also know what our data looks like. So we know which components need to be available for which sets of data. What we don't know is exactly what our users want to look at, right? Like we can't
Exactly.
predict what organization of our products or what specific pieces of our docs or any of those things they might need at any given moment. So what we're doing as software engineers with a tool like Hashbrown is we're saying, okay, I know what my data looks like. I know what my components look like. If you use this data and these components in any combination that matches what the user asked for, they're going to get a sort of, as you said, a generative user interface that exactly matches what they were asking for and satisfies my desire to build a website that actually looks good and isn't just like a rendered markdown page in a chat box.
Absolutely. That's exactly it. And it's not like,
This is exciting to me. I like this.
yeah. And it's not something that like I just invented. Like if you go use ChatGPT and you ask it what a particular stock is doing in terms of its performance today, or to find you nearby restaurants, like it already is doing generative UI. They just don't have any tooling around it to let you build that into your applications. And so it's like, okay, we think obviously they know that rich responses are really great here, that more than text really helps the user out. So let's go build those into our applications. Let's do that thing where we let the AI just do assembly of really
Right.
good components for us.
Well, and to me, this is also one of those things that solves on the long run what I hope will be like one of the core ethical concerns here is that we're making it cheaper and we're making it less resource intensive to do a lot of this LLM stuff. Tools like DeepSeek, and there's
Yeah.
the new one that just came out that was like really really way lower in terms of resource intensity, and those types of things kind of point toward a future where like we could realistically self-host our own LLM that's sort of like trained on our data. And then we're not spending all this money to send it off to the Anthropics and the OpenAIs and these companies that need, multi-trillion-dollar GPU centers. We could instead, spin up a reasonably powerful EC2. What am I looking at? I forget which one it is, but some AWS service that has a confusing acronym for a name, and we'd be able to just run it, right? And so it's no more resource intensive than any other server that we're running. And I do think the trend is going to go that way because we're putting too much research into this. There's no way it doesn't go that way, right?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like my iPhone already has a lot of the hardware necessary to run a large language model that'd be sufficient enough to do some of the simple Hashbrown use cases that we're going to look at.
Exactly. And
browsers are going to do this. And I don't know, it's just really cool.
Yes. And the thing that I find really exciting about this is that by treating it like software instead of like magic, we're building out a scaffolding where right now you've got your data, you've got your components, and you've got this sort of like robust set of instructions that are saying how to use the data and the components together to generate a UI. And right now it goes to this third party, this OpenAI, this Anthropic, this whatever it goes. But in the future, if I can just point that to my self-hosted, not that expensive, not that overpowered LLM that's like hosted on fly.io or whatever, now I'm running I'm back into like I own my own destiny again. I'm not just like hoping that maybe ChatGPT 4.5 is going to be able to do UI the way I want. I'm controlling it now. I'm back in like I'm decoupling my dependencies where like they're still my components. That's what we paid the engineers to write. It's still my data. That's what we paid the data team to write. The LLM is currently an assembly layer, and as those get cheaper and easier to host, we'll eventually be able to own those too and not have to worry that like the next major version bump is too sycophantic, or they overcorrected and now it's mean, or they switched to Grok and now it's horny for some reason. Like, there's a million, there's just so much externalized risk when you trust a company that's not interested in what you do to control the root of what's happening with your code. Anyways, I'm ranting a little bit because I'm excited because this is the first time that I see light at the end of the tunnel where it's not like, God, we're just slowly figuring out how to shovel all of our money into these three pots. And that concerns me a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, they always want to charge you money for running electricity through their rocks. Right. But we have really good rocks of our own. And I don't,
I want my rocks. Yeah, that's you know what? That's the right way to look at it. I think when the philosophers write of this time, this will be the language they use. Should we look at how this works?
Yeah, let's just dive on into it.
All right, let me get over here. Let me put up this banner and this banner. So first and foremost, as you see in front of you, this episode, like every episode, is being live captioned. You can find that at lwj.dev/captions. Which I thought I had in my clipboard, and I definitely do. It's there. So here is the URL. You can go find that right now. And if you need a little help or you just want to figure out what I'm saying because I mumble a lot, this is where you go. Thank you so much to Vanessa and White Coat Captioning for being here today to do that. We are talking about generative UI design with Mike Ryan. You can find Mike on Blue Sky. There's a link there. And we are talking about the project Hashbrown, which is you are a lead maintainer. You're the creator.
Yeah, okay. Creator/tech lead. I grew up in open source, been doing open source for a long, long time now, and it's just kind of my new open source project that I'm trying to grow a little bit of a community around.
Yeah, and you sent me a repo ahead of this that I have cloned it, and I unpacked a giant zip file. And that's the extent of what I've done. So I'm going to ask you from here, what if I want to learn about this and I want to use it, what's the first thing that I should do as a developer?
Yeah. So if you want to read about it, like I think just diving into documentation is the best place to start. It's not the best yet. We're pre 1.0. And so we're continuing to work on this documentation, continuing to refine it. But we'll look at the React docs today. We're going to do everything in React, though we do support Angular as well. So if you're an Angular developer and want to get in on the generative UI scheme of things, we support you. And yeah, this quick start will kind of walk you through all the basic setup instructions in terms of picking an AI vendor. We support OpenAI, Gemini, and Writer out of the box. We'll use OpenAI for this because, frankly, I think they have the best models for what we're trying to accomplish at the moment. And yeah, it'll walk you through all that setup. But for us, I've already kind of gotten the repo done.
Hold on. This works?
Oh yeah, that brace expansion works.
What? my whole life, I have been just, oh my God. This is one of the reasons I love this show so much, is that you pick up a little thing like this, and like nobody's ever going to write a blog post about this that I'm going to see. But I get to see it here, and it's like this. It unlocks this new thing in my brain where now I get to know something new that I didn't know until this exact moment, and that is what this is all about. Okay,
Jason.
That's number Wang. Okay, so this is kind of the base setup here. We've got a chat hook, so we're getting use chat. That gives us back messages and the ability to send a message. Yep. We specify our model, okay, and then we've got a system prompt.
Okay. Yep, and that's all going to be in our React code. So one of the things that's different right out of the box from Hashbrown compared to like the AI SDK is that everything's going to run client side, whereas a lot of like the more front end focused AI stuff that we currently are exposed to, again like the AI SDK, a lot of that runs kind of in your back end, and then your front end consumes outputs from that. With Hashbrown, we're threading the whole thing all the way to the front end, including the system instruction, the model selection, the tools. Are there downsides or deep flaws to this? Probably. I don't know. We'll find out. But that's kind of one of the first things that's different out of the box.
Because really, there's not like, I'm trying to think about what the trade-offs would be, and it sort of feels like you have to get the message, send it somewhere, and then get a response back. And there's not really a lot that putting it on the client versus putting it on the server changes in that, right?
Right. The big thing that I think developers are going to feel a little bit of heartburn about is that system instruction being on the front end. I think a lot of companies feel like their system prompt is somehow like proprietary. Of course, like I can make any model leak its system prompt with enough time and effort. And so I don't think of the system instruction as being too proprietary. And I'm also of the opinion that end users should be able to customize these things. Like when I use the ChatGPT app, I can give it custom instructions. And now when I'm talking to it, it's responding to those custom instructions. And I think part of making friendly AI-powered apps is to be really transparent about what's going on and let users customize and configure and control it. And so I've never seen these things or I've never felt like these things are proprietary, but we certainly treat them like that today.
Got it. Yeah. So okay, I can see people having feelings about that, but I would agree with you. Like, if your entire IP is your system prompt, I feel like you're in a lot of trouble as a company.
Yeah, a lot of trouble.
Okay, so this feels like none of this feels like out of my comfort zone so far. We're doing all this, but what I'm noticing is that so far this is a chat interface.
That's it. Yeah, we're starting with chat because Hashbrown kind of layers on top of a couple of different AI concepts. It is text underneath the hood. Yes. And then as we kind of get into it, we're going to actually have it generate structured data instead of just text.
Okay.
And then the concept of generative UI builds on top of that even further. It requires all these kind of underpinnings. So this getting started guide, it does start with just text, just to kind of introduce the idea of how to integrate or communicate with an LLM in your front end code. But as we get through it, we'll get into non-text for sure.
Okay. And do you want me to do that here, or do you want to jump into this repo that you created?
Yeah, we can actually do it right in the repo if you want to. All
right, let's do that. So we'll be writing some code as we go. So I have set up my environment has an open API key, and then I don't even know what a Chroma URL is, but I'm excited to learn. So we've got our environment set up, and then there's this content folder here. This was a rather large zip file that I downloaded. I think it was about just shy of 4 gigabytes. Now, what's in that content folder?
Yeah, so I took all the videos on Code TV and I ripped the audio files from them, and I created transcripts with 15-second intervals on the timestamps. And
Okay.
my idea here is something that would be fun to build is let you like type in a question or a search query across all the Code TV transcripts. And
Uh-huh.
maybe we can get this thing to show the actual YouTube videos actually linked to the proper timestamp as part of the search interface. That's kind of
Oh,
what I'm
all right.
imagining is like kind of a fun thing we could probably accomplish in an hour.
I like that. And we have exactly 1 hour to do it. So let's make a run at it. We've got 3 apps in here. I saw this as an NX mono repo. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's using NX, and so we've got an Express backend. There's a tools folder that's going to do a few things around sort of just getting data into our database, and
Okay.
then a React app bundled with Vite for the front end.
Okay. And is this one, are we okay to share this? This
Oh
is
yeah,
public, right? Okay. I'm going to
yeah.
drop this
Have the
into
have the
the,
data, have the code. I think lots of people could have fun with this data set. Assuming
yeah.
you're okay with everyone playing with the transcripts for
No,
fun.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love the idea of people being able to build off of. I have like one of the few. That's not true. There's a lot of people who generate a ton of content, but I am happy to like put it open and have it's got video, it's got images, it's got all this stuff, right? There's a lot of
Yeah,
interrelationships, so you can actually use it in pretty interesting ways, I think.
yeah.
So we've got our tools, we've got our server, we've got our front end. Are we going to be like looking at these, or are these sort of like this is a little bit of the turkey's already in the oven, we're not going to stress about it too much?
Yeah, I mean, the tools is kind of case. I think it might be worth looking at the server, like main.ts a little bit just to see what's going on in there.
Oh, so
But yeah,
this
for
is
the
the one
most
that
part,
created the transcript.
yeah. So that's all available
Got
for
it.
people to see if they want to see how that content got generated. And then we are going to
Got
run
it.
this one, push transcripts to Chroma now that you have that content folder. Basically, the
Push
first
transcripts.
script, it took all those transcripts, created them, and it also created the embeddings. And so that content folder is really pre-baked and ready to go. We just need to actually get that into our local database.
Got it. Okay, yeah. So there's there's the embeddings, and then we're doing all the chunk segments. Okay, so we have done this. You can hear us talk about this on the very first episode of Web Dev Challenge. Actually, if you're curious about how the chunking and vector databases and all that kind of embeddings works, and then this one here. So tell me what Chroma is.
Yeah, Chroma is an open source. I think it might be based on SQLite. Don't quote me on that, but it's an open source database that has vector capabilities built into it. So
Hmm.
I really like it just for spinning up like novel little apps like this, where it's like, okay, I don't really want to go pay a big service provider to go store a bunch of vector data and build sample apps around it. And so Chroma
So
works.
very good for like dev experimentation.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really
Okay.
like it for that particular reason. It has good Python and Node.js bindings around it. And yeah, I just think it's really easy to get set up and running with it. So that's probably actually the first step for you and I is just to get Chroma running and get all this data put into it.
All right. So I'm here. I'm in the root of this folder.
Great. And do we got no
And
modules? Great. So let's just start with like npm run Chroma. And so this is going to get the node tab to complete.
Chrome. No, it's there. I just hit the wrong button. There we go. Ooh.
Yeah, look at that terminal output. They did it. Someone did a great job with it.
This is wonderful.
So that's all we really needed to do to get Chroma running.
Okay.
It's going to save everything locally inside this repo in the Chroma folder as we interact with it. Again, very like disk-oriented database in that way. And so this running in another tab, we're going to start pushing those transcripts to it. And so I think it's called npm run push transcripts to Chroma with dashes.
I started using Warp, and they have the like intelligent autocomplete where they sort of guess based on your last command. I will say, like, again, very skeptical about so many things that we're doing with AI, but like this feels like one of the ones that is definitely okay. So we found 142,376 transcript chunks, and we are smashing through those pretty dang quickly, actually.
Yeah. So normally it's going to take a long time with Chroma. Chroma actually will generate the embeddings for you, but I've pre-baked the embeddings. That way we didn't have to wait for that particular part of the step. So thankfully this is just basically like a big insert.
Okay.
It shouldn't take too long to do.
And so, yeah, that looks like it's probably going to take another 20 seconds or so. So as we're waiting for that to go, what do we want to poke around in the code base to just kind of
Sure.
get our bearings.
So let's open up main.ts in that server folder and take a look at the 3 API endpoints that are available to us. And the first one that I want to show off is this is just an Express app. And the first endpoint that we're setting up is a chat endpoint. This is something that every Hashbrown developer will have to start off with, is they need to actually expose some way for your front end code to call your LLM provider of choice. So in this case,
I can see here that we're streaming.
Yeah, it's going to do all the streaming for you. It's going to do the error handling for you. The streaming response that it forms is really well hardened and nicely encoded. The front end code is there to receive it and make sure that it's all looks good and decodes it for you. So that's one of the nice parts of Hashbrown. It definitely covers kind of both of those hard parts of getting a streaming UI or AI thing kind of working. And yeah, this is all the code you have to write for it. Just call in your whatever provider you want to, give it the API key, and then that'll give you back an async iterator. You just loop over that async iterator and write out each chunk that Hashbrown generates.
Yes. Okay, great. So this is exciting because I've seen people talking about like, oh yeah, we got to get streaming working. And I can understand how hard that would be if you are maintaining a framework, but it's nice to know that if you're not doing this in a like, how do we stream back, HTML to the browser, it really is as nice as just, hey, yeah, you can just write back each chunk as it comes in.
Exactly. Yeah. And we've done, like I said, I've done all the error handling and everything for you. Those chunks contain errors or successes or whatever, we kind of got back from the AI, really hardened in that way.
Nice. So then we've got a search input here.
Yeah. So this is going to be what allows us to search those transcripts. It's going to take in a query and then a value K, which is how many results to return back.
Okay.
We'll default to 5, but we can kind of play around with it. We could go all the way up to like 50 or 100, however many we want to play with. And what we're going to do is we take that query string and then we create embeddings for it. Embeddings is basically like a numerical representation for language. And we're going to pass off those embeddings along with all the episodes that we've got back to our Chroma database collection. We're going to get back anything that matches that query in those transcripts. That'll give us those actual transcript segments. And then we use those to just basically return them back to the front end for us to play around with.
Got it. Okay, cool. Very cool. And let's see. So then we've got our results. We're iterating over those. And we've got, this is the structured data you were talking about. We're kind of looking at the video ID and stuff. And this meta is coming out of the episodes or no, we're passing off the collection query, collection. Where do these episodes end up?
So if you scroll down just a little bit on the return object, I return the episode.
Here we go.
Yeah. So the meta is actually what got stored inside of Chroma. So I've generated all those embeddings, and along with those embeddings, I'm also including the ID of the video that was from, the title of the video, and then the start second from where that transcript was recorded and the end second for where it ends. So that's all the metadata that I put into Chroma. So when we get one of these basically documents back out, I'm using that video ID to find the actual episode. That way we can play with it in our response.
Got it. Okay, so then we send that back as JSON. So we're getting structured data back, not a like a great question. Here are some ideas for
right. Just fully structured data. But we will give this to the LLM at some point to let it know how to actually build a user interface.
Okay. And then we've got a specific episode lookup.
Yep. So just let me find a specific episode by ID. Pretty straightforward. Not hitting Chroma, just hitting the Learn with JSON API.
Okay. Endpoint. I'm with it. Let me see how we're doing on these. We are so close. And then let's see what else is going on in here. We've got some types. So this is just the episode type. You can see we're getting a lot of data out. And that appears to be that's it, which is great. So a nice lightweight server, keeping it simple there. And up here, where I guess, so there's a lot kind of scaffolded out here. Yeah. Are there any pieces that are sort of like pre-baked that you want to talk through before we start writing code, or are these stubbed out?
Some of them have some code in them. So like the hooks are ready to go. They just set up API or ways to call those two API endpoints that we just looked at. And so
got it.
It's just nice to know that these exist already. That we don't have to write these.
So we can do
Yeah.
use episode, send in an ID, and then we're going to go get that specific episode.
Right.
Use search episodes is going to send off our search term and the number of things, and then give us back the JSON that was coming out of that Express endpoint. Okay, I'm with that.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Inside of app.tsx, I've already configured the Hashbrown provider. Yeah, so that's all you have to do to actually like get Hashbrown configured inside of your React app is you call or use the Hashbrown provider somewhere high up in your component hierarchy, and then give it the URL to the chat endpoint that you exposed.
Got it. Okay, so the basics here are once you've got this chat endpoint, we could have skipped the search endpoint and the episodes endpoint, and we would be able to like use that use chat hook and have the very familiar chat based I have a question, it sends back some text. But we want to go further than that, which is why we've got more going on here. Then in the app, we've got
so this is just all we really stubbed out. Yeah, super stubbed out.
So then we've got stubbed out search component, and that is doing a search header, and our search header is a form that takes the input and
a button to submit it.
Excellent. Okay, so that's great. We're looking at some pretty simple, solid stuff. We are finished with the embeddings, so I'm gonna run the app.
Yeah, so we'll do npm run server and npm run front end in 2 different tabs.
Okay, npm run server and npm run, was it dev?
Front end.
Or front end?
Yeah.
This didn't work because cannot find configuration for task. npm run.
Let's see.
npm run server should be running where's the server? Here's the server.
I might have just messed up the package.json on this. So let's just hop into that package.json and
oh, it needs a command, right?
Yeah, the root package.json for this repo. I think I messed up the command that runs the actual server. Oh, let's do nx run server instead of dev server.
Nx run server. I'm going to undo whatever I did here. Okay, and we're going to try that one more time. What are you mad about? Both project and target have to be specified.
Pix nx server. Let's see. Oh, it's this early morning. I need to have more coffee. And it should be serve server.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
npx nx.
npx nx. Whoops. npx nx serve server.
There we go.
Oh man, this NX thing is so nice. The multi-run thing.
It's so good. Yeah. My friend James Henry on the NX team built this, and he did I think he led it. It did such a fantastic job with how good it looks. So shout out
just
to the NX team on that.
Killer. Okay, so we're running on port 3000 there. We're running on 4200 here. Let me open this up. All right, we've got a basic setup, and so if I type something now, it's not going to do anything, but we'll say pre-act.
Yep.
Right, and so it lets us submit, and it's not doing anything, or maybe it's console logging. It's not doing anything.
Nothing at all.
Okay, so we want to make a generative UI out of this. What is my step?
Well, let's start with text. Just to
got some NX reps here.
Oh, nice to see Mike's on it. Hey, Mike, how are you doing? Lots of Angular friends showing up. I appreciate the support.
Yeah. Good to see everybody. Thank you for being here. Okay. Sorry, you told me to do something and I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah. I was going to say, let's just start with text. That way we can, because there's going to be 2 parts of this. We need to tell the AI how to like call these API endpoints, and then we'll have it generate a user interface.
Got it. Okay. So that's going to happen in, I assume, the search component?
Yeah.
Okay.
So from Hashbrown AI/React, we're going to import the use chat hook, and we're going to set up kind of a chat interface here. And we'll do it below in line 7.
Is it destructured in an object?
It's going to be squiggly brackets.
Curly boys. All right. Use
I like
chat.
That, curly boys. That's their new name.
And do I need to pass any options?
Yeah, this is going to be a big old config object.
Big old config object. All right. And
Yeah.
out of that, we are going to get messages and send message, right?
That's right.
Okay. And my config object is?
So we're going to first give it a model.
Okay.
And let's use Jeopardy 4.1.
4.1.
Yeah. And then we're going to give it a system instruction. And so this is where we're going to basically tell the AI how to behave, give it a variety of instructions as we go through this. But for right now, we can just say, like, you are a friendly assistant and leave it at that.
You are a friendly assistant. Okay.
Okay. So now to actually send a message, like that's all we had to do to get use chat working.
Okay.
We'll come back and we'll add some more things to this. But just to prove that we have everything set up at this point, in handle search here on line 17, we'll call send message. Now, send message is going to take an object as a parameter, and that object is going to have a role, and this will be user for the role. And then it'll have content, which will just be the message.
Which will be the message.
Yep.
Okay.
So now that we've done that, we can go render out the messages. I'm fine to just like do a pre if we want to and render the raw JSON. I don't want to spend too much time here.
Okay, so we're going to send in messages and we'll
to
format it a bit. Nice. Okay, so
cool.
And that means that to do is also done. So we're not searching episodes yet, but we are running our test here. So we can say, what's one of the classic ones? How many R's are in strawberry?
Hey, I think you counted right.
We've done it, everyone. I think this is AGI.
Done. This is generative UI right here. We made text worse.
Harder to read, harder to use, more expensive. God damn it, this is progress. Okay. Okay. So this is kind of our proof of concept here. It's doing what we expect. We can ask a question, it gives us an answer, it's showing us that it is an LLM, it's doing the predictive thing that we want. So now what?
Maybe let's start with teaching it how to search for episodes and make sure that part's working.
Okay. And
so there's going to be a lot of things to unpack here, but we're going to start with above this use chat, we're going to use a separate hook called use tool, and it's going to be what lets us create a tool. So we'll create like
is this going to be a tool. Is this going to just like search episodes?
Yeah.
Tool like this?
Yeah, that seems
use
perfect.
Tool.
Oops. And so we're going to need to give this a couple of different things. We'll start with a name. And this needs to be like a camel cased string.
Okay.
So search episodes.
Episodes.
Then we're going to give it a description. We need to tell the LLM basically what this does. And so let's tell the LLM that this is going to let it search episodes by their transcript.
Search episodes by their transcripts.
Yeah. Okay. So from here, we need to give it a schema. And what this schema is this is going to be the parameters that we're going to ask the LLM to generate when it calls our function. This isn't going to be an object. Hashbrown actually ships
not going to be a
language.
Oh,
this is going to be a schema definition.
Okay.
So Hashbrown ships with a schema library that we call Skillet, and it's fairly Zod-like. The difference is that Skillet is really optimized for large language models. So we're going to import, it's just called S, lowercase s, from Hashbrown AI Core. Yep. Okay. And then we're going to use s.object. Just like that. Yep. And so this is going to take two parameters. The first one's actually going to be a string. One of the things that Skillet does is it forces you to give descriptions to all your schema.
Oh, because then the LLM knows why it's there.
Yes, exactly. Like descriptions are usually optional in schema libraries, but you don't want it to be optional here. You really want to give the LLM as much context about your data as you can give it.
And so this would be like an object containing details about the episode or something like that?
Yeah, or like your search term, like search query.
Oh, this is the search query. Right.
Yeah.
Details about the search, or is it details about it or just the search query?
It's just a search query.
Containing the search query.
Yeah. And so the second parameter now is going to be an object. And here we can specify the keys and what the types of their values are. And so we'll do
right.
K is great.
Okay, so and that's a number.
Yeah.
And this is the number of episode results to return search.
Yep.
And is that it? Like, doesn't need a second argument?
Doesn't need a second argument. Nope.
Okay, that makes sense. And then what was the name of the other one?
I think it was search term. I don't remember.
Search term. Let's just look to be safe. Search term. Copy paste that, and that's going to be a string. So s.string, and the term to use for searching episodes.
Yeah.
And any second parameter there?
No second parameter.
Okay.
So now we've got our.
Oh,
we're
because it needs a
missing
handler.
two things. Yeah. So we're going to give it a depths array, just like we would do to like use callback.
Okay.
Inside of here, we'll pass in search episodes, which is what we got back from our use search episodes hook.
Okay.
And now we'll write a handler function. And this will be an async function. Yeah. Cool. So this async
does that get any?
I was one step ahead of you. Yeah.
I'm jumping on you. I'm sorry.
No problem. It's got two parameters. The first will be the input, what we described with our schema, and the second will be an abort signal. So that if something gets canceled for whatever reason, we can clean ourselves up.
Okay. And does this know?
Oh,
it does get typed. Awesome. Cool.
Yeah. One of the things that we've done with Hashbrown is make sure that everything is as strongly typed as possible. So everything with Skillet will be strongly typed. Everything we pass in terms of tools and output will all be nicely typed too.
Great.
So
great.
Inside of here, yeah, we'll just kind of await search episodes and pass in input.search term and input.k.
And we need to pass in the input.search term, input.k.
And also the abort signal for the third param.
Oh.
Always do cancellations, my philosophy on these things.
Yep. So, someday I'm going to learn what that means. And then I assume I need this result, right?
Yeah, so we can just return it right now if we want to.
Just return it straight up. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, now we have our tool. We're all happy, and we're going to take that tool and we're going to drop it into the list of tools on our use chat hook.
Okay, and is that an array as well?
It is.
What was it? Use search.
It's just the results. So search episodes tool.
Search episodes tool. That's the one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now if we go back to our proof of concept with this done, in theory, we could ask it to like search via transcripts of these tools.
So which episodes mention, we'll say NX.
So we can see that it did a search for NX, and we went and got back a variety of transcripts that potentially match that.
Nice. Okay. So yeah, here's like, there's the piece of transcript. And here's an X. Okay. All right. I get it. I see what it's doing.
Yep. And so if we scroll all the way down to the bottom of this, we should now see a final assistant message where it's like created some probably markdown, where it's used that data to provide a response.
Right. So here's our markdown. This is what we're trying to overcome, but we can see that it is providing interesting information. And like what we could do as well is probably fix our system prompt to like, hey, this one's actually about NX as opposed to just mentioning it. So like prioritize titles over like mentions inside the body of the thing.
Right.
But yeah, cool.
Yeah, we've at least got the data loaded into it. And I'll just like, I want to hit on something here. Like one of the things that I really love about Hashbrown's tool calling model, by doing this in the front end, it leverages your existing like authorization authentication mechanisms you've already got. Like one of the big frustrating things with MCP right now is how you actually authorize users into it. But with Hashbrown's tool calling approach, since it's running in the front end, it's usually already like using your pre-baked auth mechanisms, and it can only do what your users could do in the first place.
Which is, yeah, like auth is a pain. It's nice if you can just leverage your own cookies and just kind of make that work.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so we've got the search is working, and let's see, we've got about 30-ish minutes left.
Okay. So let's change this over now to actually like maybe show a list of videos. So
let's do it.
We'll pause on the Hashbrown for a second and let's make a simple React component that maybe shows one of these results off.
Okay, so we're going to do that. We'll call this episode.tsx, and that's gonna, let me just actually copy, nope, not that. You seem small. We'll just pop this in here, and this is gonna be a div with a class name of, oh, this is gonna be a whole thing, isn't it?
I try to make it not a whole thing, but hopefully.
Let's see. So what we probably want to do here is show our image. We want to show the title.
Yeah.
And then we want to show like the short description. I don't know if it's a short description or if we'll have to truncate, but we'll just write description here. And then we want our, just do like
maybe the transcript snippet.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. So that's going to be our link, and let's add, this will be our, oh my God, the transcript snippet. Okay, so that'll give us our bits there, and then I can get rid of the inputs for now. We'll get back to the props. We're going to call this episode. And we can get rid of all of these because we're not using them. So that's a basic episode. This isn't going to look great, but it's going to at least let us kind of plug in our pieces.
Right.
And did you want to style this up and kind of get it looking right and then drop it in?
If we get time, I'm happy to make it styled, but if you're okay making this look like just a basic old component, I'm fine with that too.
You know what? Let's do the very, very basics. Okay. So we'll do episode. You're on CSS modules. I know how those work. So we're going to episode module.css. We'll say episode is going to be, we'll go display flex. We'll go flex direction column. We'll set a gap of, we'll say 15 pixels. And then we're going to give it like a border of 1 pixel. I don't know. We'll just.
I stole all the colors and typography from Code TV, and so they're all.
Oh, did you?
CSS variables. So if you look in styles.css, I think I even kept the names for you, but it should all be
sick,
somewhat familiar.
Okay. Cool. I appreciate you doing that, and now we're going to find out that I don't even remember what I did with my own. With my own CSS. This is going to be fine. So we'll border radius at like 3 pixels, and that's more or less what we wanted. The image itself, actually, we can just use nesting. I think this works.
I don't think that API returns the images. You could tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I don't know if we actually get the URL to the images back from that API.
Oh, it doesn't? That's really a bummer. What links demo thumbnail? I thought I did. Post image.
Oh no.
Guest
image. There is that post image.
Oh wait, neither one of these is the actual episode image. These are the people in the show. Oh, dang. Gotcha. Okay, no, that's fine. We'll we can skip that part. We'll end up.
Yeah, so once you go style an image and then find out later that that'll be.
Yeah. No, that's totally fine. So maybe what we should do instead is just return the YouTube player.
I'm fine with that. Yeah, we can just like embed the YouTube iframe.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna do that. That's gonna be a stretch goal. To do video player, because that's probably not going to be that hard, but I don't want to rabbit hole on it and then not get done with anything else. So this will give us like the basics. It's going to be a box that's going to have everything kind of listed at regular spacing, and we will set the H2 and paragraph to have a margin of 0. And that way we should just get even spacing. It's not going to be the prettiest thing in the world, but it is going to do what we wanted, which is kind of show what it looks like when these things are out there. And then when we get our messages here, well, actually, I don't know what we do next.
Yeah. So let's let's make one change to that episode component and actually get some data, one piece of data in it. So let's set up a prop for just the transcript snippet as a place to start.
What are we doing here? We need this. We need curly boy. Oh my God. Okay. And you wanted the transcript snippet.
Yeah.
I swear to God, computer, if you don't chill the hell out. Snippet. And that's going to be transcript snippet string. And we'll drop that in right there. Okay.
Perfect.
So that'll be our basic snippet. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're going to swap out use chat for a different hook called use UI chat, and it should be nearly drop in for us. But this is going to also come from Hashbrown AI. Yeah.
Is it double caps like that?
No, lowercase I. Yeah.
Okay, so then we're going to take that and we're going to swap it there, and then this is almost happy. And
now we need to give it a list of components.
Array?
So this will be an array. Yep, and we're going to call a function called expose component. The first argument to this is going to be the actual function for our component. So we'll pass it an episode.
Okay.
And then the second is going to be a curly boy. And we're going to give it a little bit of metadata so that the LLM knows how to actually render this component. So we're going to give it a name. This, again, camel case, kind of like the tools, whatever you want to call it. So we just call it episode. Yeah, that seems rad. We'll give it a description, what it does.
Displays a single episode preview.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then let's give it some props. So we want the LLM to actually be able to bind data to this. And so let's have it bind a transcript snippet. And we'll do an s.string for that. Let's say like the snippet of the transcript that was relevant to the query or something like that.
Okay.
Cool. We're going to make another refactor here. Instead of doing messages, we're going to do last assistant message.
Okay.
Yeah. So with the generative UI, like we could render this like chat where we have a conversation with it back and forth, but I kind of like the idea where we type in a query and then the UI is just kind of what we get back as a result of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this last assistant message is just a helper to get that last one out of here. And so now in our template, what we want to do is instead of doing JSON.stringify, we can get rid of this whole pre-line basically. We'll render out, if we have a last assistant message, we'll do last assistant message.ui. So you probably, yeah. Otherwise, we'll just render nothing.
Okay. Okay.
So that UI
actually,
will be whatever
I'm gonna do one of these just so that if it is just so that we know that it's not like no opping, it'll say we didn't find anything.
Sure.
Okay, so now no results. And let's see. Show me episodes with Mike Hardington.
All right. So now it's going to start generating the UI. It's going to take a little bit of time to see them, and we got one out.
There we go.
So one of the things that you might have noticed is that it took a little bit of time because it was sitting there generating that transcript string. And this is something we thought a lot about. We don't want it to work that way. And so let's go back to the code and make a quick change to where we define those prompts.
Okay.
So with Skillet, at any point in your syntax, you can use the streaming keyword to let Skillet know that we should be optimistically parsing that out. So if you do s.streaming string, what this is going to do is it's going to actually like stream that text into our component so we can see it get built live.
Okay, let's immediately fix this and make it better. So we're going to come out here and we're going to add in the title, which is also going to be a string. And then we'll swap this out like so. And now when I go out here, let's see, show me episodes that feature musical elements.
I'm going to trust you know what your videos have in it. So now it's kind of streaming back to us, but it streamed really quickly. And that might just be an effect of the model.
Could be. I also screwed up that title, didn't I?
Yeah, did we save?
Did I save? What a question. Let's try that one more time. Maybe I just got it wrong. Title.
This all looks great. No type errors.
Title. Okay, I did all that part right. So theoretically speaking, if I refresh this page, let's try again. Show me episodes with music.
Okay, now it's going to start building that response.
There we go.
So yeah, and now we can actually see like it's streaming into that prompt and kind of get results a little bit faster that way.
What? Good. Yeah, this is great. So no, this is great. So now we're getting a little bit closer. This is looking better and better. Let's take it a step further by actually, here's a question. If I want to contain this, I could just throw this inside of, let's say, a like section class. Actually, we'll just hard code the style because we're rebels. We'll go with a display flex and we'll say row wrap. Oh no, flex wrap. Flex wrap is going to be wrap, and gap is going to be, we'll say 20 pixels. I don't know if it works without a number. And that should, I think, do it. So then on this, when we get out in here, we can say something like max inline size would be, well, I don't know, 30%.
Cool. Yeah, it should make it look a little bit nicer.
Okay. So now if we do this and we say, which episodes discuss React hooks, this should be a ton. Oh, I didn't refresh the page to get it to use the new component. Which episodes cover oh my God, hooks. Oh, I'm just bad at this. It's fine. It's fine.
Did it actually make the section? Yeah, we got the section.
Display flex, and then I think I just didn't get the. Oh my God! We never actually imported our dang style, so it's just defaulting. Okay. Or is it root level?
I think it's a default. Yeah, default import.
And then this is going to be styles.episode instead.
Hey, that looks right. That explains it, you know?
I was like, maybe I'm just not as good at this as I thought, which is true. But I was like, I think I'm better than this, though.
Yeah, that looks great.
Yeah, so now we're getting actual episodes. They're streaming in. We've got, if I was doing better, it would look nicer. But it's using my component. Like, it's my component and it is bad, but it is mine.
Right. And you can make it look or work however you want to. And it can do anything inside of it. It can do data fetching. It can have nice animations. It could allow for user input. Like, all the LLM has done is chosen that component to render.
You know what? That's actually all right. So this is maybe our moment then to install that. Here's our front end. Let me npm install. What's it called? I think it's called like Light YouTube. Light YouTube embed.
Embed.
Yeah. This will let us really quickly add in the YouTube embed in what I believe will be an automatically responsive way. We're going to find out really fast.
That'd be so cool.
And the way that we do this is we have to grab this thing. And then this is this is going to go in our index.html. Why not? We'll just make it, it's going to be universal. Easier than trying to figure out, scope that properly. So instead we won't. And then we're going to bring this in, which is also going to sit down here. And I guess we'll probably want that before we get the other stuff in there. And then to use this, I believe we're going to drop this in just like this. And then we need a video ID. Why are you mad? I know it doesn't. Oh, is React going to yell at me for just trying to use a...
Just trying to use an element, probably.
How do I get you to leave me alone? Maybe it'll just like do nothing and YouTube ID, and then that's going to come in as another string. I seem to have managed to set up. I'm trying to give Cursor the old college try here, but I can't get it to do the format on save. Is this just going to load? So we need to go back and actually give it the YouTube ID. YouTube ID is S streaming string. The playback ID of the YouTube video. This will be an interesting one to see if it pulls this off, because it's going to be, it has to pull that out of the data structure, and we're not like telling it where that is.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's try it and let's see. All right, got to start the server again. Okay, that's running. We're back. And now we say, show me episodes about Svelte. And it does nothing because that component is crashing, isn't it? 404 not found on light YouTube embed. Okay, this might be, maybe I need to use I need a React YouTube embed. React YouTube, easy.
This must be good, right?
Probably fine. Heavily vetted by the 450,000 people a week who download it. So we'll get that running. We'll come back out here. We're going to grab this. It's just video ID and title. So this is going to be completely okay. Don't need any of this stuff, I don't think. Yeah, that's all fine. So we're going to come back in here. We are going to go to Cursor. We're going to drop this into the episode here. We'll import this. Nope. We're going to import this from React YouTube. And then down here, it's the title instead, and close it, format it. Everybody's happy, probably. We can ignore, we might not be able to ignore all that stuff since it was 404ing. Oh, it's because it was trying to pull it out of node modules. That would explain so many things about what was going wrong. Okay. We're back. We're trying again. And we are going to say, show me episodes about Angular.
Oh, we're going to restart the dev server too. Can we do an npm install? The dev server crashes.
I think our
Not my fault. Yeah.
Oh, I got you. And npx nx serve server. Okay. Try this one more time. Refresh for luck, and we say, show me episodes about Angular. Okay, so we'd have to style it, but look at it go. I mean, this is great. This is, I mean, this is what I would want, right? Is it's kind of doing the thing. As I was building out, I would want to put loading states in, create like a placeholder for the video so it doesn't kind of pop when it comes in.
Yeah.
But that's stuff that now I can control this. I can make these choices and say, do this thing. And here's another thing that I thought was really cool about this. I didn't have to come in here and directly map these components, because we can just say, use the title of the episode, use the playback ID of the YouTube video. And because it's an LLM, this is the thing it's actually good at, is pattern matching and predicting what we wanted based on the thing. So this is sort of the dream, right? Is I can say, this is my episode component, use this out of the response and only use this. Right. And it does the thing.
It does the thing.
Okay. We got about 15-ish, little under. Is there anything else you wanted to show or anything that you wanted to make sure we highlight?
I think that I would just kind of call it out. I don't know if we want to play with it or not, but we could have exposed multiple components here. So like one of the things that I saw you do is you did like if there's no results, show this, but we could have actually given it like a 404 component and in the system instruction been like, if you don't find anything relevant, show this one instead.
Oh, yeah. Okay, let's do it. We'll put together a quick not found TSX, and this is going to be not found equals, and this will just return we'll put a div in there for no reason, and yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
And so then out here we would import, honestly, we can probably just come down here and say expose component again.
Yep.
And we're going to say not found, which is going to let us auto import that component. And this one doesn't have any props. Oh, wait, did y'all see that? Oh, it did show it to me. I was like, damn, did it like determine that it didn't have props and not even auto-complete it? That'd be some crazy TypeScript.
That'd be really cool.
Not found component, and the description is show this if no episodes match the search query.
Yeah.
If I can spell it. And
you don't just spell it right. It'll probably know what you mean. Yeah.
That's true, but I have to have a little bit of pride in myself. Okay, so then we've got our exposed component. And what if I just
refresh?
Refresh?
Yeah. Okay.
And then we'll just say noodles.
Watch, someone's mentioned noodles one time in a Learning with Jason episode.
It.
There it is. So many people talking about noodles.
Yeah, you get these little noodles. Good. Good. Okay, let's try some. What have I definitely never said on this show? Liechtenstein. Almost. Well, now I have, I guess. Like in the future, this won't work anymore. Hey, look at that. Okay. Good. This is great. Let's see. Can it be instructed to show the most viewed or most liked, assuming that data is part of what is fed to the model? Brian's saying yes. I have a question.
Sure.
Can I ask this to like polyfill with YouTube data because it's got the YouTube ID?
Oh, that's a good question.
I don't
know if it could go. It doesn't have any way to go get that data, I guess.
Oh, we need some kind of an API thing. That's right, because we'd have to give it a tool that it could use to go and make that request. But that would be kind of interesting, because then you can start to enhance your results, and you could also probably plug this into something like, Algolia's got all the contextual stuff.
Right.
But what if I say up here, where did my system prompt go? It's in here somewhere.
Line 27.
Line 27. 27. Can I tell it here, like when displaying episodes, show the most relevant first and see if that helps?
Yeah, for sure.
When displaying episodes, show the episodes that are most relevant and or most focused on the search topic, search query, at the top of the results.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see how that goes. And I'm going to try, remember that NX query was just kind of hitting chronologically anything that matched NX, but there's an episode about NX, and I want to see if that pops up when we, let me refresh to make sure. Show me episodes about NX. There it goes. So now it pulled the more relevant thing, even though this is older. And these ones are more like this is using NX, also
NX.
using NX. And this one isn't even using NX. This is pulling an NPX as an NX mention.
Yeah, so that's just the LLM trying to do its best.
But this is slick because this does mean that, like, even with, it's not necessarily perfect, right? It's going to have that same LLM squishiness where things are, you know, probably if we made this search 3 times, we might get 2 different sets of results or something like that. But it's pretty good, right? And if I come in here and I say, like, I want to learn about CSS design systems, this will be interesting, actually. Yeah. It starts pulling in CSS and does all these things. And so, yeah, like there's a mention about design systems and CSS, which is why it tripped the thing. There's Una talking about CSS. So it kind of starts, I would say, this is an actual, OpenProp is an actual CSS design system, kind of design token system. This one was very design system-y, and these ones are more like adjacent.
Yeah.
But this feels good. Like this feels really good, actually.
Yeah, and the whole idea here with Hashbrown is like you get full control over what it's doing, right? That, like, for the developer, there can't be magic to this. These are just probability machines, and it needs to be as unmagical as possible, and you need to understand why it's picking it and how it's picking it. And I think
I need it to be non-magical in terms of what it's showing on the screen. Like, I'm okay with it making educated guesses because, you know, if you asked me what episodes on the channel are about this thing, I'm going to give you a different answer every time you ask me because I'll remember it in different order. I'll think about it. I'll forget one. I'll remember a different one. I'll misremember what one was about and give you the wrong name. So I'm going to be equally inaccurate if you ask me what's been on Learn with Jason. And this, knowing that it's starting with the data set and knowing that it's restricted to a certain set of components, I'm confident that this will be as accurate or more accurate than I am, which feels okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Has this moved me from being very cynical to, or mostly cynical to mostly cynical? I would say, here's the thing. My cynicism is not about the technology. My cynicism is about the sort of like breathless push to extract capital because nobody understands this technology. And I think that's a very different level of cynicism. I think LLMs themselves are extremely cool. I think trying to sell LLMs to governments and schools because they don't understand the technology well enough to not allocate lots of money that's going to later screw them over, that is what I'm cynical about. So just to be clear, just to be very clear.
Yeah.
But so, okay. So this, I think, is, unless you got something quick, I think that's probably the end of what we've got time for today.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. So if people want to go further, they want to build something like this on their own, I'm gonna send another link to the docs here. Where else should people go if they want to dive in?
Yeah, so our GitHub repository, you just click on the GitHub link in the top right of that page there. That's a great place to start. We have some pretty cool samples in there. There are some topics of Hashbrown we didn't even hit on. So one of the things that Hashbrown lets you do is you can actually generate JavaScript code and run it on the fly with Hashbrown. We ship with a JavaScript virtual machine written in WebAssembly. And the things that unlocks is crazy.
Yeah, can we talk about that for a quick minute? Like, what does that mean? Because that scares the shit out of me. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. So the previous question that we got about, like, hey, could it sort by YouTube video views? Well, let's say that we had YouTube views as a property on there.
Right.
A traditional tool call is like really, really primitive or basic, where it's just calling the tool and then you get the raw JSON back out.
Hmm.
If instead the LLM had a small JavaScript VM that could call the same function, get search results back, and then it could call like dot sort on that to sort it back out before returning it to itself, that'd be kind of interesting, right? And so the idea with this
Okay.
JavaScript VM is that you can use the LM to generate really, really small snippets of JavaScript, not whole programs, not whole big complex things, just small things that kind of glue what the user is asking for to your component code. So that
Okay.
if someone does come by and say, hey, sort these by YouTube views, the LLM has the capability to run a little bit of code that actually can do that sorting logic for it.
So for example, if I was trying to build like a generative dashboard,
Yeah.
and by default I'm showing a bar chart, and you wanted me to, I say like, hey, can you show me this as a pie chart? Then the JavaScript to convert the bar chart numbers into percentages so that we could render a pie chart, that could be like on the fly generated by the LLM.
Yeah, and if you want to
Okay.
see a demo of that for the
Okay.
people like watching, there is a finance sample in this repository that generates charts on demand based on what the users asked for, and it uses that JavaScript VM that I mentioned. So definitely, like if you want to get into how crazy generative UI could be, come join us on hashbrown.dev. Come get involved in the GitHub repository. Send me an email, mike@liveloveapp.com, and I'll personally get you onboarded. Like I want to grow a community around this of folks who want to like push this technology and see what we can go build with it.
And to be clear, just because I don't think we called this out specifically, this is all completely open source. Like you're not, this isn't a venture funded thing. You're not attempting to monetize this.
Nope. It's completely free, open source, MIT licensed. Take all the code, fork it, run with it, go see our system prompts, like all of it's available.
Okay. So can I ask you the question then? If this isn't going to be monetized, how do you sustain this?
If I had an answer to sustainable open source, I'd be a really wealthy person. So I don't really know. I'm
Can I
hopeful.
help? Can I help?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
You run a consultancy.
that's right. Yeah. You can pay me to come do this with you. You know that
Mike, I
I would
thought I was
love to
giving you
come
a
build it
softball,
with you.
dude.
I know it was a softball. I saw it, but like the reality is, like open source is a pretty thankless thing.
No,
I would
you're
love people
absolutely
to come
right.
pay me, but there's just not a real good answer to that. Like, yes, please come let me teach you about Hashbrown, or come build something alongside you. I'd love to do an AI workshop, get your developers on, up to speed on all these different concepts that we hit on. But yeah, I just feel excited about it. I want to build a great open source project that lets people build some cool stuff, and that's where Hashbrown came from.
And I do, I love the sort of, this feels like AI for developers in a truthful way. Like I felt like I understood every step of this as somebody who's not very deep into the AI world, where like I use AI. I'm comfortable like incorporating it into things. But whenever I do it, I always get this sort of like icky feeling of like, man, I feel like I'm handing over a lot of control here in a way that I can't completely vouch for. And that makes me really nervous. I feel a lot less nervous about this sort of thing. Like, MCP is a similar approach where I feel a lot less nervous when I say, hey, you can use exactly these calls to get data, as opposed to, hey, go search the internet, see what you find. And
Yeah.
the same here. It's not like, hey, generate some code based on whatever you've got in your data set. It's, here's exactly what you're allowed to use. I built these. I know what these components do. Use these to generate some UI. To me, that's a very exciting thing. And it makes me feel far more confident in attempting something like this in my own project. So, Mike, thank you so much for spending some time with us. Chat, if there is anything else you want to know, you can head over to the GitHub here. You can also get into the Code TV Discord, where all the links that we shared today are in a channel called Show Links, I think it's called. And that Discord link is right here on your screen. Mike, anything else you want to say before we wrap up today?
No, just I really appreciate you having me on. Let me share a little bit of Hashbrown, and I'm excited to see what generative UI means and continue to explore it.
I love it. So thank you all so much for hanging out. We've got great stuff coming up. We are going to dig into asynchronous svelte next week. Yovi the Crook is, that's not Yovi. We're getting Rich Harris on the show. I don't know what I did. This is the wrong thumbnail. It's Rich Harris. Rich Harris is coming back. We're going to talk about svelte. It's going to be really exciting. I'm going to fix that thumbnail. And We will see you all next time. Thank you so much.
Peace. Thanks, y'all.
Damn it.